How's it going, guys? Simon Reason here, and today I'm going to show you a quick Lightroom tutorial and showing you how to get a flat image to an image that really pops. So let's get right into it. The first thing you can see about this image is that it's very hazy, the colours don't pop in the foreground, so this is something we can change very easily in Lightroom. The first thing I'm going to look at is the exposure. Now the exposure looks okay for this image. I mean, the sky is very overexposed at the moment, but we can sort of fix that later in the process. So next I'm going to go to contrast. I'm going to bring up a bit of contrast so the image starts to pop out a little bit more. Let's go over to here and bring it up. As you can see, it slowly starts to come out in the foreground. I'm going to leave about 79, that should be fine for now. Next I'm going to look at highlights. Now as you can see, the sky is still very overexposed, it's still very hazy over here, and the lake is still very bright for what it should be. So I'm going to bring down the highlights a little bit. About there will do it. And then next I'm going to look at the shadows as well. So I'm going to bring that up a bit so we can see some more of that detail. That should do about there. So I'm going to come back to clarity, vibrance and saturation later. That's normally the last thing I ever do in the process. So next I'm going to go down to tonal curve. I'm going to bring down those highlights again because they're still very overexposed. So I'm going to bring it down to about there. As you can see, a bit more detail is coming out in the sky and the lake is starting to come out as well. Still very hazy over here, but we can fix that in a little while. So I'm going to scroll down to HSL now, and these determine your hue, saturation and luminance. I really want my green foliage in the foreground to really pop out a bit more, so I'm going to bring up my hue of the greens. That's looking a bit better. It's also starting to look a little bit blue in the background, so we can start bringing that down a little bit. Not too much. Around there will do. Next I'm going to go to saturation, and this determines how bright the image pops. So you can have really low saturation, means there's no colour in there at all, or you can bring up the saturation and that will pop out the colour a lot more and a lot brighter. So for this, at the moment I'm going to leave the greens because I don't think that needs to be done so much, but I am going to take down the blues a little bit, just so that background doesn't seem so blue. I'm going to do the same for luminance, just bring down the blue a little bit, not too much. And as you can see, it's starting to get a bit more detail in those trees in the background as well. Next thing I'm going to do is go down to lens corrections. Now I'm going to enable profile corrections. Hopefully you'll see the right lens, which it has, which is good. I'm also going to remove chromatic aberration. As you can see in the image, it's a lot more brighter, there's no vignetting, and it looks a lot more flatter and not so rounded. Okay, next I'm going to go down to effects and add a little bit of dehaze. As you can see, the background is still very hazy, so we need to bring that down. So I'm only going to add a little bit. As you can see, that's a bit too much actually. That has made a lot of difference, and the image is now more popped out. You can see the detail in the trees in the background. That ridge in the far background is also a lot more standing out, and the sky, you can see a lot more detail in the clouds. So the last thing I do with any image is go back up to presence, and I'm going to add a bit of clarity, vibrance and saturation. This makes the image more vivid and more pop out. As I said before, vibrancy and saturation bring out the colours more, and that's what we want. So firstly I'm going to add a bit of clarity. As you can tell, it makes a world of difference Like the trees in the foreground have more detail in them, trees in the background have more detail in them. You can see the sky a little bit more. It's just, I love clarity. I always add clarity in all my images I do. Not too much, but just enough to bring out that detail. Next, I'm going to add a bit of vibrancy. Not too much. Just enough so you can see the greens really start to pop out in the foreground. But also, it's looking a little bit over saturated, so I'm just going to bring it down a touch. Okay. Only go to about -5, just so it looks more appealing to you. And that's all I'm going to do for this image. And as you can see, if you use the / key, you can see the before and after and how much of a difference it's made. As you can see, it's very flat. There's not much detail. It's more very over hazy and overexposed in the sky and the river, and it's very bland in the foreground. And now there's more colour in the foreground. You can see the ridge in the background more clearly. You can see the details of the trees in the background, and you can see the clouds in the sky. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. If you want to catch more of my stuff, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to check them out, I'll leave the links in the description below. Now catch you guys in the next video.